Hi, my name is Danielle Carey. I am the clinical manager of the Carey office. I'm also a speech-language pathologist and an orofacial myologist. Today, we are going to be talking about preparing for a frenectomy. So maybe you came into Emerge for feeding therapy, or maybe you came into Emerge for articulation therapy, and during our assessment, your therapist said, hey, I'm finding a tongue tie. Here's some of the symptoms you might have noticed as an infant. Here's some of the things you might be noticing now. And you're like, yep, all those things happened to me. So the obvious question is, what's next? How do we fix this problem? Well, you are in luck. You are in great hands at Emerge. We have created a phenomenal network of tremendous providers who make it easy and make the process smooth for the kids, which is exactly what we want. So once I've decided that someone has a tongue tie, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get them function. So think about if you were to get injured and you hadn't been working out, you hadn't been doing any kind of exercise, and you have to have a surgery. The outcome of that surgery for you is not going to be as good as someone who maybe has been working out avidly. They have good muscle structure, they just had an injury, and they still need the same surgery. They're going to have a better outcome. So our jobs as orofacial myologists and speech pathologists are to help your child's tongue be the best tongue that it can be while it's tied, because they're going to understand the movement patterns and they're going to have more tone and function going into the release. So when they come out of the release, it's going to be a lot easier for us to get even more tone and function. But before we get there, we just got to get with their emotions and how they're feeling about potentially having a release. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong here, people, but I think I've got it down to a science, and I'm going to share that with you today. So the first thing I'm going to do for the child is I'm going to talk to them about their mouth. So this is my mighty mouth here, and I always show them, okay, look at the top right there. You see all those bumps? I want you to feel all the bumps on the top of yours. Sometimes our kids have such a restriction, they're not even able to feel the bumps on the top of their mouth. Sometimes they can, they're like, oh yeah, I have those bumps too. And then I'll ask them to lift up your tongue, and I'll say, oh look, mighty mouth doesn't have anything under there. We all have something under our tongue. Let's look. And I'll show them different ways what mine looks like, and they'll try to do the same. And I'll say, I have a special friend who likes people who have superhero tongues or princess tongues, whichever the child I think would like more. Sometimes I do it, some boys really like princesses, some girls really like superheroes. Whichever one they like, that's the one I'm gonna go with. So I have a friend who loves superhero tongues or princess tongues, and he likes to check them out, or she, depending on which provider. We have phenomenal women providers. We have phenomenal men providers that do releases for us. So I say, what they like to do is they like to look in and put a little diamond on your superhero tongue, or put a little diamond gem on your princess tongue with a magic pen. And then your magical tongue can move all around inside your mouth. And I'll show them some of the things they can't do. I'll show them how their tongue could then go and get a seal, or how their tongue could touch their back tooth once they're able to move it with their new superhero tongue. So that's what I'll prep them for, and kind of tell them, like, it's a cool tongue, it's a special thing, and you're in this special club, and you get to go meet my special friend who puts these diamonds on. Then their next question is, well, whoa, how is your friend going to put this diamond on? So what I like to model for them, I don't have, most of our providers are using laser via light scalpel or light walker, different types of lasers, but they're all kind of used with a pen. So I'll take a vibrating, I'll bring it close to you. This is a Z-Vibe. This is not exactly what it's going to look like. The pen in the dentist or doctor's office is attached to a wire that's attached to the machine, but we'll practice and we'll do kind of imagery. I'm like, it's going to be kind of like this. It's going to be like a little pen, and they're going to have you tickle until they draw that special diamond. And I'll kind of practice modeling it. The main thing I'm practicing in that moment is not for them to feel what a Z-Vibe is. It's for them to have someone in their mouth doing something that they're a little bit uncomfortable with. So this does not hurt. Nothing about that is uncomfortable for me. But what it would be for someone who doesn't do what I do every day is, why is this crazy person putting something in my mouth that is not a toothbrush or food? So it gets them used to someone putting something in their mouth. So I'll recommend doing that when we're coming into the sessions before we start, before we go in for the frenectomy. Then I tell them about mommy and daddy's job. So my job is to help you prepare and understand what's going to happen. And then my other job is to make sure mommy and daddy know what they're supposed to do. So the way I describe that to my friends is I say, okay, we have my special friend that's going to give you that special magical diamond on the underside of your tongue. But just like magic, over time, that diamond's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears, just like magic. So what mommy and daddy's job is, the day after you get your super cool superhero princess diamond, mommy's and daddy's jobs are to go in and check. Diamond's still there. Diamond's still there. And they're going to hold it for 9 seconds. So they're going to go in, they're going to check for that diamond. They're going to hold it there for 9 seconds to see if that diamond stays. And I tell them, it can be a little funny after you've had that magic diamond put on when mommy and daddy go in, but we have to check to make sure that diamond stays because we want that diamond to stay for as long as we can. That's going to make it give you the best range of motion and the best healing process. So that seems to work really well for the kiddos as well. So I kind of relate it all back to, is this diamond on my superhero tongue? Is this diamond on my princess tongue? And the way that we're keeping that diamond on there is by stretching and by mommy and daddy doing the checks. When we do a frenectomy, normally I think for all of our providers that we're working with right now, every 4 to 6 hours, the day after the release, we're going to be lifting that tongue up and making sure the diamond's still there, AKA stretching the tongue. Something that I think is really different about our model here at Emerge is that not only do we do those lifts after the frenectomy, but we do them before the frenectomy. Think about when you've gone and maybe had some dental work done, your chin is feeling numb and you're touching all over it, and you might not want to move your mouth as much. We want them to have a feeling of this is old news. Mom and dad checking for my diamond, that's old news. It's not going to be something new and scary going into their mouth right after they've had this magical diamond put on. So depending on the child, my children that are a bit more anxious or cautious, I might do it 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the release. I'll tell mom and dad, okay, I want you to start checking underneath their tongue at least twice a day. You don't have to hold it for 9 seconds. But you know what? By the time they get to that frenectomy appointment, it's old news. Like that part is not scary. So they are no longer feeling fearful or concerned about someone going in their mouth. And that's going to set us up for success when we're doing those wound care stretches after the release. So that's really important. The other cool thing is that we can do those stretches on mom and dad. So a lot of times I'll show parents what the pressure is that I'm putting on the tongue by putting my hand on their arm. Sometimes that's really hard to feel in the mouth. So what I'll do is I'll say, if you feel comfortable, I can stretch you. It's going to feel different and it's going to look different because there's no diamond there. You don't have a magic special tongue. So it's going to feel a little bit different, but you can feel the amount of pressure that I'm applying. And that has been really helpful because we do know with these releases, the most important thing is the aftercare. If we have a great release and the aftercare is not the best, we don't always get the best outcomes. So to avoid having a great release and poor aftercare, there's another really awesome measure that we kind of put into place that's helped tremendously problem solving anything that might be going wrong or not quite right with a stretch. So the other thing is that I have asked the providers that we work with most frequently to try to avoid doing releases on Fridays. And here's the reason. I like to see my clients back into the clinic 24 to 48 hours post-release. And the reason for that is at that stage, if you are not getting a good stretch, I will see it and I can help problem solve it, and we can work through and show you how to change the stretch and make it more appropriate and functional to keep that diamond open. Because what we don't want to see is that diamond turn into a triangle. If the diamond turns into a triangle, what's telling us is that it's healing not like this, slowly getting to a smaller diamond. It's kind of anchoring down. So it'll turn into a triangle if we're not stretching that floor of the mouth away from the magic diamond or the wound, whatever you want to call it. So I highly recommend, if you're getting a frenectomy, to go to your provider who has tongue-tie specialty and have them do the 24 to 48 hour check. Most of my clients plan to come see me 8 a.m. the next morning as soon as they're supposed to start stretches. So then I am the first person doing the stretch on their child as well. That gives parents a lot of comfort because they can see it in action first. And it's typically probably the hardest stretch, if I'm being completely honest, because the kids are feeling a little bit sensitive about their mouth in that moment. But I can remind them, like, hey, we talked about this. We talked about how this is your princess tongue and it has a magic diamond, and I haven't gotten to see it yet. So I'll take a picture of it for you if you want me to. And I work really slow. There's never any like forcefulness because it is a hard thing and we want to validate their emotions and their sensory experience. And typically that day after, we're going to keep it light. We're going to do the stretch. We're going to do some lateralizations of the tongue to make sure we've got good movement. And then we're going to do a ton of parent education so that you feel prepared and ready for success with your child. Now, one thing that is always an option also, that is another great reason to be an emerge, is if you feel like you're not stretching well enough, or if you feel like you're having a hard time getting a good stretch, or if your child is not allowing you in. Maybe they did fine for me and then you go home and they're like, you can call us like, hey guys, like I need help. This isn't going well. Come back in. We'll problem solve through it. We have lots of tips and tricks to get into mouths and get those stretches done so that we have optimal healing. So I think that's another really great benefit of Emerge and who we are as myofunctional therapists and the training that we've given to all of our speech therapists as well. The other important thing that I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you a video of what that stretch looks like. Now, I will say this video does have the diamond on it. So if you are watching this with your child and you want to watch it first, now would be a good time to pause the video and allow yourself to watch it first and decide if you want your child to see that or not. Some kids do really well knowing what to expect, and some kids seeing that magic diamond might make them feel a little bit nervous. So I'm going to let you as the parents decide what's best for your child. That's going to be coming up next. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our team. Thank you for joining us today, and we're excited to help you through this process.